Hey everyone, I'm here with Brea Grant, director of Torn Hearts. I'm so excited to be here with you to chat about this movie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm lovely. So, for our viewers who are unfamiliar, can you just give us a little synopsis of Torn Hearts?
Yeah, Torn Hearts is about two up and coming country musicians who they go to the house of one of their idols, another country musician, and who hasn't really been seen or heard from in many years. She's kind of a hermit since her sister died about 20 years ago. And they go there to try to get her to do a song with them, like a record a song with them. And horror ensues.
So I love that you used country music as the backdrop for this horror. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of horror movies set in the country music space, and I wanted to hear more about why you chose this as kind of the setting for your latest film, or the backdrop,
Well,
I guess, for your
I mean,
latest
you've
film.
never seen any country music horror movie,
I
have
thought
you?
so. I don't think I
I
have. I was just like,
I searched.
I didn't want to be like, say like definitively because I don't, but I was like, I have never seen a horror movie, like a country music horror movie, and I was so into it. It was so
I
cool.
oh good. I keep saying I'm the first, but I don't know if that's true. I did not write the script, so I cannot take credit for this idea. It was written by an amazing writer named Rachel, and you should look her up. Someone else should make more movies with her. She's amazing, and she lived in Nashville for a while and had friends like in the country music scene, and so she wrote that and kind of like combined that with the horrific things that happen. And I mean, she just came up with this really cool idea, and then Blumhouse sent me the script. And I am from Texas. I do have like I grew up listening to country music, so this felt like something up my alley, and I was like, I have to make this movie. This is just so, I've never seen anything like it.
What kind of country music did you grow up listening to? Like, who was your
Thank you
favorites?
for asking. Well, my dad was like an old country guy. So,
Okay.
and like from that, I took away like Towns Van Zandt, like that kind of old country. And then my mom got into like the country music had like a moment in the 90s, and she got into that where she was doing like the Reba McEntire, Garth Brooks of it all. And so, yeah, so I have like a weird combination. And then I have kind of, I mean, there's some of it I do still listen to, but for the most part, I listen to a lot of like alt country.
Yeah.
But I mean, making the playlist. So I make a playlist for like everything I do, and making the playlist for this was so super fun because it was like, oh yeah, I can put like Parker Valley PTA on there, but also put like She's Gone Country, like I can like really like go like the edges of like kind of country music that I like. And I do like country music. Like it is like, I feel like there was this minute like in the 90s, like maybe late 90s, and I had by this point like gotten into punk rock music, so I was like, fuck all that. But I was like, then I'd be like, I like everything but not country. That
Oh
was
my
like what you
God,
said,
same. I was the
right?
same. I was the same way, like, ugh, country.
Country, right? But the weird thing about country is that it's like it kind of spans a lot of genres, and it's almost more about an attitude and a perspective and like a heart on your sleeve kind of thing instead of like this one specific type of music to me.
Exactly. And I feel like, especially with summer coming, I feel like country music is such a good, like, kind of summer
Oh
exciting kind
yeah.
of thing.
Oh,
So,
totally. That's
yeah.
good. Yeah.
So I'm curious about this because there's a lot of obviously singing in this movie. And what was the process like? Like, how involved were you in writing kind of these songs, these like the original songs that everyone sings in the film?
Well, Rachel wrote the lyrics to the songs. And like
Oh,
so when I read
cool.
the script, there were lyrics to the songs, and I was like, how are we going to do this? Seems very difficult. And we had a very, very short prep time. Um,
Okay.
but a music producer named Alan came on board, and he read the lyrics and he's like, yeah, I think I can do this. And basically he and I met and we talked about like, oh, I want that I want these different types of songs to sound like different types of country, right? So like Torn Hearts should feel like pop country. It should almost be Taylor Swift at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Duchess Sisters should feel more like 90s country. It should have that like sort of Reba McEntire feel, but like even more like kind of go a little bit almost like Loretta Lynn. Like I wanted like more of that.
Yeah.
And so we had like all these different kinds, and I wanted like the last song, this song Go that Hope wrote, that one of the characters wrote before she died, is I wanted it to feel like haunting country, like very old school country. And so I told him these ideas, and he was like, okay. And we passed like songs back and forth, like some country songs I liked, some stuff he liked. And he just wrote a bunch of songs, and then we Abby and Alexis arrived in New Orleans. We recorded theirs, and yeah, it was great. It was he did a really amazing job, and I have to give him credit for coming in and just banging it out.
Well, and was this a new experience for you with like kind of being involved in the music? Because a lot of your other films obviously don't have a lot of like singing and original music in them. So it seems like was it a new experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yes. My last film, 12-Hour Shift, does have a song in the middle of it. It has like a musical breakdown moment.
That's true. That is true.
So I did have music in that, but that was like a weird, like a kind of last minute thing that I planned. I like planned at the last minute and then sort of like, let's see if we can make this work. But yeah, no, this is definitely a new thing. But I mean, I like music. I am surrounded by musicians all of the time. My house is full of music equipment. So I definitely like live in that world a little bit.
Are you a musician yourself?
You know, I played in bands when I was much younger. I played drums when I was very young. I played in like punk bands in my teens, but I'm not anymore.
I am all about a lady drummer. I just think it's the most badass thing because drumming is so fucking cool.
It is cool. It is cool. And I realized my producers, we were all like, there's a room in the movie that has like a drum set in the corner. And we're all showing off because we all knew how to play drums. And I was like, there's 3 drummers on this. And the one was a woman. And I was like, how are there 3 of us like on this same set? That's like, seems random, but. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. But so what was casting like for this film? Because you have the incredible Torn Hearts duo, but you also have Katey Sagal playing Harbor Dutch. Like she's so cool. So what was the casting like? Because I feel like you had to find people who could sing. So was it a little bit more challenging to get your core cast?
You would think, and that was my concern. And you know, I didn't have to use people who could sing, but I was just like, it's just gonna make our lives easier if they can sing. Yeah. And we had such a short time to prep the movie, and we had very few chances. We couldn't make any mistakes, really. And so, I asked for them to submit tapes where they sang at the end a song. Mm-hmm. And both Alexis and Abby did. Abby played guitar in hers. She's a brilliant guitarist. Alexis they're both great singers. Yeah. But I was like, oh, great. Yes, it limited like my casting pool, but not as much as you would think. Like actors are talented. People are so talented.
I feel like everyone can do everything at this point. It's kind of crazy. Like it's wild. However,
I was watching these videos and I was like, I should quit. I do like one thing and I do it. I don't know. My producer and I, who was watching all the tapes with me, I was like, how are there this many talented people? It's an embarrassment of riches, really. And then with Katey, you know, she sings, and she's a great singer. She's an awesome voice, but then also she's an amazing actor. So she was on my list from the beginning. And I was like, do you think she would do it? And my casting director was like, ooh, I don't know. And he was like, kind of like trying to see if she'd be interested. And her manager was like, she does want to do something out of the box. And I was like, well, what's more out of the box than a horror movie? She's never done one, right? So I just wrote her a letter and I was like, I really want you to come play this role. Would you come do it? And she did. So it was a very, it ended up being great.
She's such a presence too.
Oh my God.
Like she commands the screen. She's incredible. Like was she just like so easy to direct? I feel like she just like walked on set and you're like, all right, cool, you got it.
Perfect. Well, it's funny because I mean that's not who she is in person. She's a very like nice, giving person. But she does have that presence on camera. So like one of the first thing we shot with her, is the scene where she's walking. It's the entrance of her in the movie. She's walking down the stairs, and she walked down the stairs. And I was sitting behind a monitor with like my DP and my producer, and we were like, "Oh, cool. We cast the right person." Like it was like she had such a presence and such a like. It was like intimidating, right? To just watch her come down the stairs, and she's just like she just has a presence, like a gravitas to her, where you're just like, "Oh yeah, don't mess with her," you know, like don't mess with her at all. But she's great. She loves working through scenes. She loves talking through scenes. I love that stuff as well. Like I come from an acting background, so I'm just like, let's get into character stuff. Let's talk what's going through your head. Let's let's get into the deep shit. And she loves that stuff too. So it ended up being a great working relationship.
It's so cool. And then obviously country music is all about glitz and glam with costumes. So what was it like to work on those, like kind of collaborating with the costume department? Because there's some iconic outfits in this.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to give all credit to Yulin. my costume designer, she lives in New Orleans, has worked on a couple of Blumhouse movies, but just had this amazing team. And when I came in, I had like some inspiration. I brought in a bunch of photos and stuff, and I was like, here's what I'm thinking. And she basically took that and like maxed it out. And I was like, this is perfect. And at some point, like I would go down to where they were all working, and they'd all be like, they like hand sewed a lot of that stuff. I mean, all those costumes were made. They were made to fit. All the costumes at the end, there's like the 3 iconic costumes that they're in at the end. They designed those to fit those women. They were literally designed to fit. We had only like 3 versions of each of them because like we couldn't have that many, because it was like, and you know, bad things happen in those costumes. So we had to be very, very careful. But yeah, she was literally like hand sewing like gemstones onto them. She was amazing. At one point I was like, you know, you can't have too much French. And she was like, heard. And like, and she was like, more French, which is just like my dream. I love sort of like big, broad things like that. I love bright colors. And it was just very fun to have that in the movie.
Well, I also love how like, it's like not saccharine, but like bright and colorful and like feminine this movie is, and also so intense. I feel like not a lot of movies strike that balance super well, and it was really cool to watch you working through that. And I wonder like how that was for you, working through kind of balancing this femme / terrifying / anti, like your antagonist is a messy lady who I mean love a good lady villain who's just like cruel and nasty. But yeah, I was like really into the vibe with that. So what was that like kind of doing that balance?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a weird time to make like a all daylight horror movie with like a bunch of pink in it. Like this is not the hip thing to do. And I realized that like all horror movies are dark, and they're very like, they're dark and simple, and like everything is very whatever, which I like those movies, but I just felt like the script didn't call for that. This is a different movie. And it's more my sensibility anyway. Like I think my production designer, when I met with him, I was like, every frame should have pink in it. There should be a little bit of pink in every frame. Maybe it's on like, could be in the clothes, but I would like it to be like it's somewhere like you see all these little, like if you look at all the doodads, all of them are like kind of pink and kind like it's very feminine. And femininity as an aesthetic was like one of my goals for the movie. Like when I sent everyone like these goals for the movie, my themes, like things I wanted to get across. And that was one where I was like, this is a movie about 3 women dealing with being women in this world that treats them not great. I want to make sure we get across that there's nothing wrong with having a feminine aesthetic. And
exactly.
like, and it's interesting and it's cool. And like, I want to like push that. And even to the point where it is almost saccharine. It's a fun thing to play with.
I love it, and especially because it's country music. So I feel like you already have that kind of established, like, saccharine, but also, it's a cool, I very much appreciate that aesthetic in horror. Because again, like you said, it's dark. We love dark horror, but sometimes I want to see like a high femme horror movie full of blood and pink. Like
yes, I know. I feel like the first Fear Street, I feel like had a little bit of that. Like there's some movies that lately have come out and I'm like, oh, cool. Like they did a different aesthetic. Like, because I really notice when things are popping in a way that they aren't popping in other movies. Not there's anything wrong with that. I like those movies too, but it is interesting to see these movies that kind of think outside of the box.
Cool. And I just have one last question for you. If you had to like program your perfect double feature with Torn Hearts, what movie would you pair with it?
No one's asked me this. Oh, okay, I'm gonna say Misery.
Ooh.
Which is the sort of darker version of Torn Hearts, but with an author, I think, in some ways. I think, I mean, there's obviously like, you know, things outside of it, you know, that we don't parallel, but I think that could be a really good pairing. You end up with these 2 like iconic women doing these very like iconic roles. I hope Katey becomes iconic. But I think like doing these like iconic roles where they're these complicated, dark women and you just kind of watch their descent. I think that could be really fun.
Oh, I love that. Ooh, cool. Well, Brea, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Talking with me today about Torn Hearts. Torn Hearts is out on May 20th.